We begin with the latest in the Middle East, and the United Nations is raising the alarm over the situation in Gaza and the West Bank, warning that Israel's intensified military attacks and the reported forcible transfer of Palestinians raising serious concerns about possible ethnic cleansing. Well, the warning comes as the newly formed Board of Peace holds its first official meeting, putting the crisis at the centre of urgent international discussions. We're joined now by Salim Owels, who is a UNICEF Menara Communications specialist and joins us now from Gaza. Salim, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Ramadan has obviously begun across the world, and it's begun there in Gaza under a very fragile ceasefire. I just wondered if you could start by describing the situation and the overall mood there.
Well, definitely people are both excited to celebrate and to observe the holy month, but at the same time, the overwhelming uncertainty and continued struggle and challenges on the ground really keeps that and challenges that and keeps it to a minimum. I've talked just today with children, with parents, and they're really happy. They're really looking forward for this month, but at the same time, deep down, they have this ache. Children are missing their siblings who passed throughout more than 2 years now. They miss their houses. At the same time, parents are just very heavy with commitment to provide to their children, which is really hard under the circumstances right now. While the ceasefire has brought in some hope, and yes, we can see more food items in the market, it's still far from reachable for many families who can't afford the very high prices. So it's just a mixed feeling and a portrait of mixed emotions.
Right. So since the ceasefire took effect, you're saying, 4 months ago or so, things have improved, but they're still not anywhere near where you would expect them to be. In terms of the flow of aid, let's talk about that. What percentage of what's needed is actually getting through at this stage?
Well, it's definitely just a fraction. We're talking about we're scaling up, and we were able to kind of start moving around, especially inside Gaza with the ceasefire, and deliver the last mile. But what comes in still is not enough for the needs, and not everything is coming in. Today I was in a water and sanitation system repair project for UNICEF, and we still need many of the parts that is needed for that project. Unfortunately, many of those parts, many of the equipment is still not allowed in. In terms of direct aid to the families, what's coming in is barely scratching the surface, because we're talking about 2 compounded years of needs, and of course, people their resources are depleted. They can't, as I said, they can't afford what's in the market. But also the crossing points are not enough. We're talking about just 1 or 2 crossing points. But what we need is all crossing points to be open for aid, but also for commercial goods that will help stabilize the market and make it more affordable for people.
I can see you're warmly dressed. I know it gets cold there in Gaza at this time of year. And with the cold weather come associated health risks. Children, the displaced, the elderly, particularly vulnerable. How does that manifest itself? What are you seeing in terms of sickness levels there?
Well, honestly, there's a wide variety of sicknesses, especially those associated with cold weather. And while this week, to be honest, it's much better than it was last week and the week before. At least we don't have much rain. Today it rained a little bit, but that really created, especially in the camps, created a perfect environment for sicknesses to spread. We've, as everyone else, heard the reports and received the reports of many children sadly passing due to hypothermia. Tents are being flooded. All that just happened in the past few weeks, and it brought really despair to families and children. And of course, many of them are still struggling with the impact of that.
Right, and people have told us that there's still very little cash in people's pockets. I mean, people haven't worked in many cases since the 7th of October. Limited resources. I mean, how do families manage? How are people getting by there?
Well, many families are depending on aid, and that's why it's really important to make sure that all the aid that's possible coming from all crossing points. That's one. Another thing, of course, there's a community that's helping each other. There are the kitchens, community kitchens that provide food. But families are really struggling, and I really, it's hard to fathom how they can survive in such environment, despite, as I said, having a little bit more in the market. So it's really crucial to keep that in mind when we're thinking about a ceasefire that is still kind of fragile, and the environment as a whole, the market environment, the aid environment, we need more of that just to make a dent in the situation.
In terms of people's morale, I'm assuming there's a sense that the worst of the winter is over. We're probably entering the spring season in the next couple of weeks. And while we're talking, the inaugural meeting of the Board of Peace is happening in Washington today, bringing together representatives from 45 countries. And we understand there are pledges of some $5 billion for Gaza. Is that giving people hope? Do people there say they're optimistic that this Board of Peace is going to have an impact on their lives?
Well, honestly, people are in despair. We're talking about almost 2.5 years of continued violence, continued bombardment, besiegement, of promises that have not been kept. The world has failed Gazans over and over again. So honestly, people are not very optimistic. They're actually, what I heard, and quoting children and adults the same, they're just afraid of the violence to break on a large scale again. And I think that's what they keep thinking about while they're having a little bit of respite that is in the ceasefire. So actually the feeling is more of wishing that this continues and wishing for more to be coming in. Just today, I spoke to a young lady in her last year in school, and she's really not very hopeful about how things will turn, and she just wishes that the world will finally give her back her house, her life, which unfortunately in a big part of it will not be back because it's gone with siblings, with family members that passed. So no, people are not very hopeful.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time, but thank you very much for joining us. Salim Owels at UNICEF in Gaza. Thank you, sir.